And we are back here on Open, and following developing news that we have reports of gunshots heard near Capitol Hill, and according to authorities, the situation appears to be contained. We'll give you more information if we get any more before the show is over. But speaking now in our political segment, we've got our commentator, Lee Bynes, who's here with us, talking a little bit about the Democrat Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, who is recusing himself after information surfaced of him viewing the Trump and Russian investigation in the White House. And so Lee Bynes joins us here. A lot going on in Washington, D.C.
Right now, I want to make a point of clarification. You just said that that he is going to recuse himself, because the last I heard is that he refused to do so because the Democrats was requesting it. Yeah. But right now, as far as I know, he's still hanging pretty tough.
I will get the update on that. That's what I had. We'll check it out again.
But
anyway,
moving forward, yeah, he's in quite a bit of trouble. He seems to be over his head in terms of handling this situation on an independent basis, leaving his Democratic counterpart, Schiff, pretty much out of the loop, as well as his own Republican colleagues on that Intelligence Committee. So how he's going to handle this moving forward is difficult, but it definitely seems that that a lot of Republicans in the Senate are going to make some serious hay with this issue moving forward on Russian investigations, because even they have to admit that what's coming out of the House Intelligence Committee right now is not going to cut mustard with the American people. People know that something wrong happened, and they want answers.
Are we going to see a huge divide amongst the Republican Party, given the fact that a couple of weeks ago we know that the President Trump said that this could possibly, just altogether, could lose seats, whether it was about supporting the Affordable Care Act, and we'll come back to that in a few minutes because we talked about that, but there was a talk about the possibility that they would lose seats if they didn't support the president, but it seems as though they might be able to gain some seats by distancing themselves from the president.
Well, we're talking about the Republicans now. Well, you know what? Broadly speaking, I don't think that Donald Trump has much support in the Republican Party overall. He made a lot of enemies in route to getting to the Oval Office, and behind the scenes, I'm certain that there's a lot of people who are sharpening their knives. They can see the blood in the air. He's losing, despite his big shot winning attitude. This man has not won anything major in the last 66, 67 days. Save for his signing of the executive orders. But anytime he's been challenged to produce, he's been losing. The two Muslim ban executive orders have been stopped in the courts. Healthcare has turned into a debacle. Mexico is definitely not going to be paying for the wall. And so what he's actually accomplished in terms of being a deal maker thus far, very much left up in the air.
Yeah, the last time we went to air last week, we were just about that place. We were talking about the Affordable Care Act and whether or not it would have enough votes to go ahead and go for a vote. Knowing now that it failed, what does that mean in terms of the president, credibility, and his future?
Not much. I mean, let's put it this way. I wrote an article this week entitled "Bait and Switch." Okay, because essentially that's what America got. The bait was happening in this campaign. I'm promising affordable health, world-class affordable health care for all Americans at a fraction of the cost. Now, you know, anybody in their right mind who's been studying this over the last 15 minutes could understand that that is literally impossible to do. However, that was the promise. The switch was the health plan that they actually delivered. Now, Paul Ryan was told by the president, look, on day one, I want a piece of legislation that I can sign into the law to repeal and replace Obamacare immediately, okay? What did he get? He got this American Health Care Act that pretty much stripped away every benefit you could possibly imagine. When you talk about, if you look at the article that I wrote, we have essential health care benefits. This was a regulation that Barack Obama put into place to guarantee you a basic health care plan, ambulatory care, care for maternity care, care for opiates. I mean, these are things that you ambulance. The Republicans kind of came out with a scheme where you could like pick a la carte off this list and say, okay, I want this, I want that, I want the other, I don't need whatever in order to lower the price of premiums. But in doing that, you pretty much stripped health care for what it was actually meant. So when the president is going around on a daily basis talking about we're going to get rid of these job-killing regulations, the public needs to understand what those regulations are and what they were put in place to do. And in this particular case, the baseline, just baseline coverage of the essential health benefits. If you strip that away to lower premiums, yeah, you'll have insurance, but it's fake insurance, as I mentioned before. So moving forward, it's pretty much, I think that the country is definitely headed towards providing a universal health care for all Americans, but it's sort of like what Winston Churchill said years ago, that Americans have a tendency to do the right thing after they've tried everything else. And that's where we are right now, because I mentioned and have been mentioning over the last couple of weeks, few weeks that I've been here, is that based upon a capitalist system, providing affordable health care for every American is just not possible. And that's why you got what you got. And that's Barack Obama gave you as best as you could possibly get within the confines of that construct. But moving forward, unless we're willing to make some serious changes, we're going to be right back here again. And Donald Trump, if he thinks he's going to get any help whatsoever from anybody on the left, he's kidding himself. He's kidding himself. It's not going to happen.
Midterm elections are going to be, you feel, will be pretty intense.
I think our friend JC mentioned about a month ago that the Republicans had enough power to pull this thing through, to probably make sure that they would be in the office for a full 8 years. The way things are going right now, I doubt very seriously that they'll be able to be there for this full term. When we get to the Jared Kushner issue and another side thing that's under the table, which was a Michael Flynn story that got buried Friday because of the healthcare failure, you'll understand where I'm coming from.
What can we expect to see coming out of Washington right now? Of course, a lot of damage control is happening, but what can we expect to see over the next couple of days come from the White House?
You just said the two words, damage control, because at this stage of the game, his son-in-law, who pretty much abandoned him during his worst week in office when the healthcare issue was going down, he was in Aspen skiing, okay? And then when he comes back, what is he facing? His son-in-law, the closest person to him in the White House, will be facing down the Senate Intelligence Committee. And in that particular instance, it's not going to go as easily. There won't be as much cover there because he's got Republicans who are gunning for him. Lindsey Graham, John McCain. They cannot stand Donald Trump. They've had issues with him, and they've been going after him left and right over the last couple of weeks, calling him out on every single mistake he's made. The reason why this is going to be serious is because although the Democrats are calling for Nunes to recuse himself and they'll be making a lot of noise in the Senate, because the Democrats are completely out of power and literally have no teeth to bite with, if anything is going to happen, it's got to come from the Republicans, and they seem like they're prepared to do some damage.
All right. Lee Bonds here, our guest, our political analyst in studio. Thanks much, Lee. And of course, we'll be bringing him back, and he'll be breaking down the latest out of Washington, D.C., and also locally. Thanks a lot, Lee.
My pleasure.
All righty. We'll get JC back in here next week. He's got the week off. All right. Updating you at other news, though, we are updating you on that thing that's happening in Washington, D.C. right now, where we got reports that shots were heard near Capitol Hill. What we do know is a man that was driving on Independence Avenue Southwest ran into a Capitol Police cruiser. In addition to running into a police cruiser, he then attempted to run over officers. Officers were later able to apprehend him at 3rd and Independence. He is currently in custody, and there are no reports of injuries. Of course, as we bring you more information, breaking news coming out of Washington, D.C., right there on Capitol Hill, where shots were heard with a man driving into a Capitol Police cruiser. Taking a quick break. We'll be back with more here on Open. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.